Hawaiʻi, that they no longer have to live and struggle so much to survive in this state. And we're about to have we're about to have dinner, right, Vernell? Vernell, give Vernell a nice hand. Vernell is hosting the event tonight, and of course, Dave & Buster's opened this room for us. Kendra Murray, she's the general manager here. She's a longtime friend, and so she actually cut us a nice deal so we could be in here. But this is cool. Perfect. Who's been in here before?
Not at this
I've been the one at Ward, right? It used to be a Ward?
I worked with Kendra.
Oh, you did?
A couple of our events before. She's been here.
Yeah, she's awesome. She's here tonight somewhere. I saw her earlier. Anyway, to come here and just to be in this venue is so fun. I think I just want to go out there and, shoot something or do something over there. But anyway, so we're looking forward to a great evening. Vernell, when is the food going to be served, or how do we do it? 7:15. Oh, so we're going to go for a little while.
Yes.
Okay. So then our venue is from what to what? 6:30 to what is it?
6:30 to 7, and then I'm going to go over the quiz.
Okay.
You turn in your quiz, you can get a card. And
Okay.
It's actually a card for 1 hour or $10 off.
In the future.
Yeah, well, now I'm thinking it's today.
Oh. Okay. So we'll spend the first, I'm hesitant to start right now because people are still coming in. But so some logistics, the restrooms are around the bar, all the way to the back corner, and then in the corner over there. So that's the logistics. And we're just going to start. Actually, we're committed to starting on time. And so just campaign. The opportunity for the people of Hawaii. How many of you have lived here for more than 10 years? Okay, so almost everybody is a long-time resident here in Hawaii. So then you've also noticed over these seasons, you've noticed difficult times for the state. How many of you know somebody who's actually moved to the mainland because it was just too difficult? So almost half of the room. Aloha, come on in. So the conversation that we're going to have tonight is really about the future. I was just talking to Sarah and Sasha. Are these your folks?
Yes, I got it.
Oh, that's so good. We did an interview outside. That's so good. That's very cool. They're very, very astute young. Yeah, they're awesome. I said, "You guys voting?" They said, "Yes." So part of the deal tonight is to make sure that by the time you leave the event tonight, you'll be fully aware of what Gary Cordery for governor is about. And my hope through our conversations and the questions that you'll be like, we're all in. Because when I talk about the fact that this is a run for all of the people, that's exactly what I mean. In Hawaii, 50% of the people, and sometimes as high as 60% of the people.
These are all the friends right here.
Yeah.
Very cool. Aloha. Come on in. Sometimes 50 and sometimes 60% of the people in Hawaii don't vote.
Ooh.
They literally do not vote. So 40%, essentially 40 to 45% of the people in Hawaii actually make the decisions for all the people in Hawaii. Now I'm going to have to be really good tonight because I'm competing. Let's hope that they don't put on some good show. So when you think about the fact that 50% of the people in Hawaii do not vote, that means they're completely disengaged, right? What does that mean? So when I ran in 2022, when I went door to door in 2022, I would come up and I would knock on people's door and I said, "Are you voting?" If they said, "No, I'm not voting," what's the point? People in Hawaii recognize that the struggles in Hawaii are systemic and they've given up. We had a recent event where we went around the room, we had this conversation. It was a great conversation, and we were talking about this 50%. We came across a gentleman who had just retired, and only a couple of months before he had retired, and he said, "I'm part of the 50%. He's never voted in his entire life. So let's just say 65. I'm guessing that's his retirement age. But he's never voted, and he said, "Now I'm voting." Because he recognized that not to vote is to cast away the most important right that you have. Yeah. So when I say your vote, I'm actually talking about your voice. There's a distinction you should consider. That my vote is my voice. And if I don't exercise my voice and make my voice heard and make my wishes known, then public policy will actually be enacted that I have nothing to do with. And what I'm here to say tonight, and I will describe to you later as we move forward in the evening, that public policy should be defined by the people's will. How many believe that? How many have heard this phrase, right? the government officials are servants of the people. Who's heard that phrase? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? How many believe that currently the political climate in Hawaii, that the political officials are actually servants of the people? Honestly. How many believe it's true? Okay. Nobody. It is not, and that's true. It's not true. And I will say one thing, that as we move forward in the evening, this is a conversation, right? And this room is so small that I can come up to Eric and I say, "What do you think, Eric?" Right? There's no ground. My point is I'm opening up the opportunity that we would have engaged in a conversation, and you don't have to wait till quote unquote the question and answer period that we're going to have later. If you have a thought or a question, say, "What about this?" or "What about that? I didn't know this." Right? So it's an invitation for you to participate in this conversation. Okay? So in Hawaii, if your vote doesn't matter, why not? How come people who go to the polls, and then when politicians say, "I'm going to do this, this, and this," after they get elected, they don't actually do this, this, or that? Is that your experience?
Yes.
That's my experience. Because politicians say what they say what you want to hear. It's kind of like a New Year's resolution. How many made New Year's resolution this year? Be honest. Come on, who's going to start working out? Right? Who's going to stop eating fried chicken? Right? Who's going to pay down their credit card? These are New Year's resolutions that are quite common, right? So we're not about New Year's resolutions. Gary Cordery for governor is about solutions, not resolutions. So the things that we're going to talk about and the policies that we're going to tell you that we're going to employ actually are based in study, and we're going to actually do it. I met with a man today named Patrick for lunch. He's a transportation expert. We had this long conversation. He said, "I've been telling the government for decades now that if they don't deal with the runways, we're going to have catastrophic crashes on the runway." I said, "Why don't they fix it?" He says, "I don't know. They just kick the can down the road." And this is kind of standard operating procedure. I do it myself. Anybody do it in here? Nobody's honest in here. Everybody does it to a certain degree. But as a political official, you cannot declare we're going to fix something and then not only not have the intention to do it, but just say it because it's so. Because every politician, as long as I can remember, have been able to articulate the problems. So there's basically the big five in Hawaii, right? What's the number one problem in Hawaii right now? Who thinks it's cost of living? Let's just take a poll. Cost of living, highest, most important issue facing the people of Hawaii, cost of living. Number 2 is related to cost of living, but it's housing. So cost of living, housing, they're somewhat related, right? Number 3, what do you think it is? Anybody?
Homelessness.
Homelessness, okay. Homelessness is kind of where you start to get blended, right? Homelessness in Hawaii. Unfortunately, Hawaii has the highest homelessness rate per capita in the nation. Is it getting better? How many hundreds of millions of dollars every year do we throw at the homeless problem but never resolve the issue? Does anybody know why? Anybody? Because homelessness in Hawaii is big business. That's the truth. The fact of the matter is the state of Hawaii and the federal government give hundreds of millions of dollars to NGOs every year to fix the problem. They're executed through the Department of Health to push out these programs that are supposed to help the homelessness in Hawaii. The problem is the money never gets to the people, and programs just support the policy makers, the administrative staffs. If you want to fix homelessness in Hawaii, the first thing you have to do is you have to assess who's on the street and why. Right? You with me? So how come people are actually on the street? What does that require? It requires somebody has to go out into the street, into the street and the highway, and find out why they're there. Only a few years ago, there was a department where they had people who would go out, RNs that would go out and actually assess the people. Why they canceled the problem, Department of Health, I don't know why. But part of resolving the issue in homelessness in Hawaii is assessing who's on the street and why. Our good friend has run homelessness in California. Now they have a problem that's much larger than ours, right? Right? She said in their research, they found that 25%, so that means this much of this room, 25% on the street have schizophrenia, right? A $2 pill. A $2 pill given to a person with schizophrenia starts to get their mind right. Right? If we took 25% of the people off the streets of Hawaii, would that make a difference? Right? Because once you get on the street and you start living on the street, it becomes into a cycle. Pretty soon your family lives on the street. Right? Then you have people who are addicted to drugs, methamphetamine and fentanyl. Who knows about this? Right? My friend, we had a meet and greet at Ocean Fa, on Fern Street. It was fantastic. Deputy Sheriff is there. He says to me, Gary, I'm a deputy sheriff. The sheriff's department in Hawaii are tired of arresting criminals because the next day they go out on the street, no bail.
Yes, I've heard.
They arrest them on Monday. On Tuesday, they're dealing again. Right? So if you continue to allow this kinds of behavior, a lawlessness in Hawaii because our prosecutors won't prosecute, our judges won't adjudicate, and nobody goes to jail. How many of you know that the Attorney General of Hawaii is not elected by the people? And why is that important? Anybody? Okay. In every other state in the Union, the Attorney General is elected by the people. Right? The Attorney General's job is to ensure that the government behaves properly, that they don't violate the law. In Hawaii, the Attorney General is selected. He's appointed by the governor. So I want to paint a picture for you for a second why we have lawlessness. How many of you are experiencing some fear when you go out? Do you guys let your daughters go out by themselves on the road? No way. When people leave my office, when the ladies leave my office in the afternoon, I go out, I scan the road. Does everything look okay? Yesterday, there was 2 guys out here. They weren't normal. They're not on my street. I call my office. You guys need to come down and go to your cars now while I'm standing here waiting. Because there's a rise in lawlessness and disregard for respect for human life that's out there that I don't remember seeing 10 years ago.
Yeah,
It's crazy. Some of it is just the fact that we have lawless society. Some of it is because we have fentanyls. But basically, the underlying problem is that the Attorney General doesn't tell the prosecutor to prosecute crime. And in addition, not only does the governor pick the Attorney General, he also picks the sheriff and all of the judges. One man picks all, he has all this authority. So when you think about it, in Hawaii, with corruption and lawlessness in Hawaii, there's no solution because the people who are supposed to manage the problem are part of the problem. You guys with me? So I don't want to have this like Debbie Downer conversation. Right? We should know that there are great things ahead. You know, I was talking to Tyler outside. I said, Tyler, the future is all yours. Right? We're at Dave & Buster's and it's not an accident. We're trying to reach the Gen Z group. We're trying to reach people who are under 30, right? And all of you are under 30 in here, I'm sure. Right? Because the young people of this state are facing hopelessness. They are. I've watched some studies, I've read some studies, I've watched some video, and the language that they say is, I hope I can stay here. And parents here are wondering, are my kids going to stay here, and are my keiki and my mo'opuna, are they going to be here? Am I going to be a grandfather that has my family here that has been here for generations, or are they going to move to Las Vegas or Texas or Florida or Tennessee or wherever? How many of you know somebody who moved to the mainland because they could not afford it? What are we going to do? I think there was another person we talked about there that asked me that question. How can we lower the cost of living in Hawaii? What can be done? Right? So there's a number of fundamental things in Hawaii. First of all, we're the highest tax state in the nation. Did you know that? Right? I just talked to my friend the other day. He said that I'm a contractor, by the way. I'm not a politician. Minor detail. I should give you a little background on myself. I'm 66, right? I've been married to my wife, Kim, for 45 years. She got on a plane this afternoon to go to Kona because we have an event in Kona that I'm going to be running to late, but she's going to go help set it up. We have 2 adult daughters, Rachel and Erica. They're 39 and 40, and we have 7 grands. They were all born here. All the keiki were born here. And 8 years ago, they came to our house and they said, "Hey, let's have a family meeting." Now, if you're a parent and your kids come to you and say, "Let's have a family meeting," that's a home run, isn't that? Yeah. You're like, "Wow, that's fantastic." Over the next 5 hours, they went on to tell us why they were leaving Hawaii. It was a heartbreaking day. It wasn't a day of joy. So together, the 2 families said, "We can't afford it here. The writing is on the wall." They moved to Utah. My son-in-law had his mom lived there, etc., blah, blah, blah. They moved to Utah. It was hard. It took us like a year to get over. And so now we have one vacation spot, Utah, right? That's where we go. I say all those things to say that it doesn't have to be that way. The people of Hawaii are strong and smart and wise, and we have such abundance here that we can't manage the resources here in Hawaii is an absolute shame. And it's unnecessary. With our population, you know, our budget this year, our projected budget this year is $20.5 billion. That's a lot of money. It's even hard to contextualize or even consider what that number is. Last session, it was $19.6 billion. So my first and automatic question is, why the extra billion? Our population declined. Did you know that? Right? We have what's called outbound migration in Hawaii. We have the highest rate of outbound migration in the country per capita. It's a reflection, and it's happened for years now. We're on the 5th straight year of declining population, outbound migration. The reason? People don't see a future. And what I'm here to say is we can change the trajectory of the state, and people will stay, and they'll be able to stay. So some of the things that we're going to do to lower the cost of living, and one that people keep talking about, we talked about it in 22, is we're going to finally get rid of the Jones Act. How many have heard that phrase, the Jones Act? Okay. So the Jones Act, I'll just be really brief. The Jones Act is a protectionist clause that was put in place by the U.S. government back in the war, in the 30s. And the idea was it was to protect military shipping and the industrial base to build ships, to build ocean-going vessels. And it was designed to do that. But basically, it regulates all shipping industry in the continental United States and beyond, like Hawaii. And it requires that every ship is built by... Come on in, I've got plenty of places here. Yeah, of course. So what the Act actually says is that all shipping, all transportation, ocean, and even in the rivers of this country fall under the purview of the Jones Act. And what it means is that it must be built by U.S. labor, flagged under U.S. ships, and what's the implication? Everything you buy costs 25% more than it should. 25%. So 25% of the... Is that Jim? Is that Jim? Okay. Scotch, my friend over here. 25% of that phone, 25% of the paper, the pencil, 25% of that TV. Everything in Hawaii is marked up 25% because Hawaii needs an exemption from the Jones Act. Why does it need an exemption? Do we have an option? We don't grow our own food anymore, do we? Right? Who shops at Costco here? Or Homes or Sam's Club? Right? We no longer have local ag industry, do we? We have it on small scale. But if all of the products that come into Hawaii are subject to the Jones Act, then you can take 25% off the cost of living right off the top. And it's been suggested before. And the issue is that labor unions, the Longshoremen's Labor Union, is opposed to it. And quite frankly, they're the most powerful union in the country. But Hawaii needs an exemption because we don't have an option. We're getting crushed. Even Ed Case, the congressman from Honolulu, right? He proposed this legislation at the national level, to an exemption for the Jones Act. And one of the things that we're going to champion is we're going to champion the actual implementation of an exemption for the Jones Act. And I'll tell you why it's never happened before. Because you've never had a governor who would actually stand for the people. We've had governors since 2000 that have stood with the unions. Why do you suppose that is? Anybody? What's that? Got to pay. You're getting paid. So it's how public officials in Hawaii stay elected. Now, some of you may be union. It's okay. I'm not suggesting that union workers or union companies are bad. What I'm saying is unions cannot stand in such a way that everybody pays because they get a benefit. That's not pono. It's time for the people's rights and the possibility for the people, because then everybody's cost of living will improve. Abundance for everyone, a pro-Hawaii campaign. The next thing we're going to do, you just heard Green talking about it and the Republicans were talking about it, is we're going to eliminate general excise tax on food and medicine. How many have heard about this before? There's other states that are doing this. This is not rocket science. General excise tax in Hawaii is a regressive tax, which means every time the commodity changes hand, there's a purchase in place, it gets charged the tax. Every time. So I'm in construction, right? I go buy material, I get charged the tax. They bought the material, they got charged the tax. They shipped the material, they got charged the tax. At the end of the day, I billed for Steve. Guess what Steve does? Gets charged the tax. So it's regressive is what I'm saying. So people are paying the same 4.712, maybe 3, 4, 5 times. In addition, we're going to actually freeze property taxes for the kapuna at the age of retirement. I just heard somebody talking about this the other day. Fixed income. When you retire, most people are on a fixed income, right? Right? So if you own a home and you're paying your mortgage and you have a fixed income, you have a budget, right? You get $100 a month, it costs you $90 a month to live, you get $10 to go to the movies. That's your budget, right? So what happens if you're on a fixed income and your property taxes continue to go up? It's no longer I have $100 and it cost me $90. Now I have $100 and it costs me $200. And over a period of time, that additional property tax forces the homeowner to sell their home. And where do they go? They sell their home because there's equity. They move to the mainland. Right? It's hard to do a lateral move. In other words, when I say lateral, what I mean is it's hard to sell your home in Kapolei and move to Ewa. That's a lateral move in Hawaii. There's not much there because no matter where you go, it's expensive, right? We live in this fantasy where we talk about affordable living, affordable housing. What is affordable housing? What can you afford?
Range of median income.
Median income, okay. Okay.
Under 140.
Okay, under 140. So if you make 140, can you afford a $6,000 mortgage? You cannot. Can you raise 20% of $1 million for a down payment? I'm talking to the young people. You guys are thinking about this, right? How am I ever going to buy a home? Do I ever get to move out of mom and dad's house? Or are they going to build an ADU and I'm still going to live on their property? How many are thinking this? Be honest.
Yeah.
It's the only option that there's out there. It's the only option. Hope that your parents have enough money to build an ADU so you can live in the house and have some privacy, right? And not give them some privacy. I see you smiling. I got you, right? How about we have a housing program for local people where we actually have an entire market designed for local people who have lived here for 10 years or more, and the cost of the mortgage is between $2,500 and $3,500, no matter how expensive the purchase price is. I'm trying to reframe this conversation from an earlier one because it's hard to imagine. But if you're a developer in this state, When you develop property, maybe it's one of these amazing condos down here in Kaka'ako. Or maybe it's Ho'olopili, right? The developer gets tax breaks from the feds. They write off everything. They write off the water bill, they write off the electric bill, they write off the utility, they write off the construction, they write off the debt, they write off the interest, and at the end of the day, they're building for something that's much more cost effective than you're being told. They're making bank because they're not paying the fees and the taxes that residents pay. So this new housing plan simply says this: we're going to give those same tax breaks to local people. You guys tracking with me? Okay. So if you bought a home for $800,000 or $1 million and your mortgage was $6,000 a month, which it would be, assuming your rate is somewhere around 4%, are you guys tracking with me? Are you getting bored? Okay, I just want to know. I'm just checking in. You could go like, come on, Gary, let's eat. Right? Seriously.
This is good stuff.
Okay, so let's say you have a 5% mortgage, or even better, let's say you had a 3.5% mortgage. Your mortgage is still $8,000, right? That same mortgage can be lowered down to around $3,500 if you get the rebates that developers get. And it's nothing, it doesn't come out of the state's coffers. It doesn't come out of the state tax. They're already being paid for by the Fed. So the question is how do you convince the Fed to say, let's give that tax break to the homeowner rather than the developer? That's the call. And when you do that, you have an unlimited possibility for all of the people of Hawaii. Now they still may be buying a home that costs $1 million, right? But their mortgage they can afford. Because we can't actually affect the cost of the house, can we? I could go to Roberta and I could say, Roberta, you have such a great house. You live on Lanikai Beach. It's fantastic. It's beautiful. It's probably worth $15 million. But you know, because I'm the governor, I'm thinking you need to sell your house for maybe $2 million. I can't tell her to do that. The government cannot tell somebody about their property, right? You have property rights. It's in the Constitution, right? So rather than tell Roberta she's got to lower her cost, which by the way the governor is trying to do, he is trying to manipulate cost. Rather than telling her she has to lower the cost, we're going to say we're going to lower the cost for everybody. Hi Alex, how you doing, buddy? You guys with me? So imagine that. In addition to that, our campaign has committed to building 15,000 single-family homes. Fee simple. This is a great departure from what the governor is saying and most political agencies and policymakers, where they're going to have development schemes, but they're leasehold and they're kauhalis. They're 400, 500, 600 feet. The governor has committed that. He said he's going to build 65,000 of these. They're transitional homes, and you will never own them. Who believes the governor can build 65,000 homes? Nobody. It's because it's pie in the sky. It's
all laughed when you saw that.
yeah, but that's exactly what he said.
That is what he said.
And so when he says that, he's not talking about a home. He's talking about a kauhale, which is a community that's been built together. It's 400 or 500 square feet. You have a community kitchen. It's transitional homes. What I'm saying is our campaign is committed to building 15,000 single-family, fee-simple homes for the people of Hawaii for the price between $400,000 and $600,000. And people said, that's not possible. I even had a guy email me, I've been a contractor my whole life. It's not possible. I said, listen, my friend, it is possible. Because we're going to use existing state-owned land, and we're going to use existing state underutilized property that's already there. So we're not paying for the ground. We're building the home. And we don't need to make money on it. We need to put people in homes. You guys with me? How long does the state think it needs to make money off of its people? How many of you like that concept? Isn't this what the state does with Hawaiian homes? Isn't that what the state is exactly doing with Hawaiian homes for generations now? Isn't the state of Hawaii leasing the land that belongs to the people, leasing it back to them, and making them pay lease rent back to the land, back to the state? And it's affordable, isn't it? How many of you know that Hawaiian homes, median income house, $750,000? You may get off the list. There's 30,000 people on the list, plus or minus. Are you guys with me? Yep. It is time for the governor of this state to actually account for the bad behavior of the people that have in the past that annexed the state. And it's time to give the Hawaiians back their land and stop leasing their land. They should own the land. So here's the problem with leasing in Hawaii. If you're Kanaka and you're fortunate enough to get picked, you're out of the what is that called when they reach in and pull out the ball? The lottery, right? Your name gets pulled out of the lottery. You all of a sudden qualify for the opportunity to have Hawaiian homelands because you set up the qualifier. Am I right? Why is it not so that the land that is being withheld from the Hawaiian people, just given them the land? And then the government's job would be to open the door and to create the utilities and the infrastructure and let them build their own land. Let them build their own hale. This is policy that makes sense, and it can be done. I had somebody call me and say, you cannot do that. Come on in, Curtis. How are you, brother? I'm doing all right. They said, you cannot do that. That's a congressional act. So I said, actually, it's been done before. You can go back to the Department of Interior. You can renegotiate Hawaiian homes as long as the beneficiary doesn't lose, right? As long as they have an increased benefit, it doesn't even have to go to Congress. So that's another thing we're going to do. In addition to that, those Hawaiians who live on non-leasehold land, right? We've been talking about leasehold land. There's also Kanaka who live on non-leasehold land. We're going to remove their property taxes in perpetuity. They're never going to pay property tax again, right? These are just honest, common sense ways of relating to corruption and mismanagement of resources that's gone back now for 100 years. So why hasn't a governor done that before? Can anybody think of a reason?
Follow the money. It's probably money.
Follow the money. Hawaiian Homes is big business.
Always the money.
Follow the money. So when you actually start looking at public policy in the state of Hawaii and you start to see breakdowns, how come things don't work? It's follow the money. When I decided to run in 22, I was a general contractor. I still am. Okay? I got my whiteboards out. I had 5 of them in my house. They're like this. I started writing down names. I said, who can tell me about running for governor? There must be somebody who knows something. So I wrote down these names, all the people I knew, Linda Lingle, all these people like that, people of political experience. I called them up. I said, Roberta, what do I need to do to win? Roberta says, you need lots of money and you need name recognition. These are the 2 components to a campaign. You guys with me? You see all that stuff out there? When you leave today, that's name recognition and that's money. So, I go through this list. They're about an hour phone call. It takes me 4 days. Patiently go through this conversation. Listen, I know the first thing I need is wisdom. I know the first thing to lead this state is I need wisdom how to do that. I get to the end, the very end, the last person says, a lady says to me, she says, it's not that you can win a popularity contest, it's can you govern? When she said those words, it just pierced me. I like, whoa. Because the sobriety of my declaration, I'm running for governor, actually I was confronted with my own conversation. You guys follow me? Right? You can say what you want to say. You can make as many New Year's resolutions as you want. But until you're ready to walk that out and back it up, it's just fantasy. So I got my computer, I put it on the table, and I said, what does the governor do? For real. And it started this process of understanding how the state of Hawaii functions, its structure of government in Hawaii. How exactly does the state function, right? This took me to a journey of following the money, if you will. This is where I first learned that the governor was the most powerful governor in the nation. I mentioned it earlier. Attorney General, Sheriff, all the judges, office of elections. And here's the kicker. The governor of Hawaii, at the end of the day, appoints 10,000 people. Appoints. Notice what I said. He chooses them, or she, including all of the department heads and deputy directors. So I'm talking about Department of Education, Department of Health, DLNR, Department of Transportation, Department of Agriculture. Every department, the governor himself picks the director and the deputy director, and they in turn build their staffs. You guys tracking with me? I'm having the conversation now because we're talking about how we're going to change the trajectory of the state. This is critical. At the end of the day, you need to understand that when you vote for Gary Cordery, we are going to change the trajectory. We're not having a fantasy conversation or a New Year's resolution. But there has to be something authentic and real and tangible and identifiable that you can actually do rather than just talk. So how do you change the state? The way that we're going to change the state is we're going to actually, because the governor decides, right? We're going to put people of responsibility, honor, integrity, accountability in charge of the departments. So when you think about that, and you have corruption that's gone wild in the state, it's not just at the state level, right? How many of you heard about the $35,000 brown bags to start them? You heard about this? Okay. Gary, it's 7 p.m. Time for questions. Okay, gotta know. Mahalo. That's Margaret. She's the campaign manager. She's dropping the information on me. Vernell, when's the food?
It's going to be coming in a few minutes, but actually, I wanted, so anybody that filled in the quiz,
Okay.
I want to kind of go over the quiz.
Okay, we're gonna take a break.
Yes, we're going to take a break. And
Let me finish this thought.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, let me finish this thought. What we'll do is we'll pick that up after we eat, okay? Okay. So how we're going to change the state, the trajectory of the state, is if Steve is in charge of the Department of Transportation, and Steve's a great guy, but the most important element of Steve is his character. He's a man of integrity. And when nobody's looking, he still does what's right. And he recognizes that the money that he's spending is your money, the taxpayers' money. And so he stewards the money with excellence. He holds the money and he makes sure that every penny that you spend, Curtis, in taxes actually shows up in the real world. Like when you register your car. How many of you spent $500, $600, $700 registering your car recently? That's what I spend, but guess what? My roads look the same. I drive like this now. I'm missing potholes. I got a car with these skinny tires. You hit the thing, it's almost $2,000. I've done this now. Who's done this? You hit a pothole, your rim's ruined. Where's the money? It's misappropriated because it never makes it to the street. And I'm just using a microcosm. Let's say Roberta is in charge of the Department of Education. In education in Hawaii. Sasha and Sarah were talking outside, we're talking about education in Hawaii. Why doesn't the state of Hawaii teach financial literacy to the people of Hawaii? They graduate from school, they cannot manage their finances because they've never been taught, right? How about this? We talk about culture in Hawaii. We long for culture and the aloha spirit back in Hawaii. Who longs for this? Okay? If you've lived here a long time, you long for it because you remember. We're going to teach Olelo, Hawaiian language, from the 3rd grade to the 12th grade, automatic. As they bring in the food, I want you to notice something. When you put people in charge of these agencies, they will determine the policy that comes out of those agencies. Are you guys tracking with me? Most of you think that public policy, this is getting kind of chaotic. You guys okay? Okay. I'm okay with it. Chaos is in my blood. I'm a contractor, right? Okay. Public policy in the state of Hawaii does not come out of the legislative office, the senators and the representatives. You think it does. It does not. Public policy is developed and implemented at the policy level from the departments. The square house, the ledge, the Senate, they allocate resources. They give the money to the policymakers within the departments. So if you want to change the Department of Transportation, you find somebody like Steve who understands his role. He in turn understands he's been given this money, your taxpayers, from the ledge. He's got $4 billion to work with, and his commitment is to make sure that that $4 billion represents the needs of the people. Are you guys with me? You can take that conversation and you can apply it to every policy across the state. that make sense? So rather than in the education department, we're going to teach kids how to get along, SEL. Hey, let's just get along. Let's teach the kids how to get along. And by the way, we're going to lower the standards, right? They don't actually have to learn. How many of you know this? I talked to teachers. I talked to an 8th grade teacher not too long ago. He said, my student can only read at the 4th grade level. His administrator said, you will pass him. So rather than taking this wasted money and tutoring this young man, right? Rather than doing that, they pass them through. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to take a break. So let's, this is a very interesting format that we're working in here.
That's great education.
It's part of life, and you got to recognize that when the food's here, you got to shut up. So please help yourselves, folks.
Yes, maybe can we go from...
You go for it.
Lion.
Hi, buddy.